Okay, I'm calling to order the October 2nd meeting of the Finance Committee at 1:03 PM. We have a quorum, we're just missing Kareem. We have a brief agenda, but there may be items that we want to add to the agenda. The agenda includes the schedule for the budget meetings, a discussion of when and how to share the two analyses that we have ongoing, healthcare costs and the long-term model, and just a brief update on administrative support for the committee, and I would like to get some guidance from you all. Are there any other items? Sorry, and then there's one, I would like to add one item to the agenda, which is the participation by one member of the Finance Committee on the Woodstock Aqueduct project that is just being launched. Tom, I'm hoping, well, anyway, we'll come to that.
I'd like to add,
Any other items? Yeah.
I'd add the role of the Finance Committee with the new town employees or management team,
Particularly the finance person, or just in general?
town manager and finance person.
Oh, okay. Okay, any other items for the agenda?
John, do you want an update on the dialogue I've had with extracting some of the material from, if you'd like that,
Yes,
in terms of vacant lots, you know, that type of deal?
yes. And also perhaps a quick update on the capital plan. There's not much to do. All right, anything else? So I had 42% of the agenda items accurately portrayed in the agenda. It's higher than usual. Okay. Call the meeting to order. That we did additions. There are no citizens, so there's no citizen comments. Scheduled for budget meetings. Eric, I think sensibly would like to hold all of the budget. If you remember last year, well, some of you, Tom, you weren't on the committee, but we held the meetings, one meeting per week for however many weeks it took to go through the departments.
Until 2.
It's Kareem.
Hi, Kareem, welcome. Wait for Kareem. Oh,
Hey, folks. Sorry, let me switch cameras here. Hold on a
All right,
second.
no problem. Hold on. And I'll just, if it's all right, I'll just review the agenda with Kareem so he knows what's coming. Kareem, you can hear us though, right? Well, he's probably not.
Yes, I can.
That's all right. So on the agenda is schedule for budget meetings, a discussion of when and how to share the two analyses that we've talked about. One is the healthcare costs and one is the long-term financial model. A brief update on, I just want to get your counsel on the administrative support, or more accurately, lack of it, for the Finance Committee. A quick update on the Woodstock Aqueduct project and possible hopeful participation by one member of the Finance Committee on that project. The role of the Finance Committee with respect to the town manager and the new finance manager. And an update on the vacant lots type information about the idea of encouraging both revenue and financial development, real estate development, and an update on the capital plan.
Okay, great. I'm gonna log out and log back in. Okay, I'll be right back.
I'll repeat this for Kareem, but basically Eric would like to conduct the meetings with the department heads from October 16th to the 27th. He is asking us when we would like to do it, and he'll, I think, get the department heads to come.
I'm out of town the day of the 18th on for that entire period. So if it was in the early part, I would love to do it.
All right.
That would work, but unfortunately I'm out of town the rest of
And we couldn't do it by Zoom, or you don't
it.
have.
Yeah,
it's not something-
I'm at the Rugby World Cup in Paris.
Okay, fine, all right. Okay. All right. So
You
Eric.
get the humor, right?
So Eric would like to hold, he's letting us pick the times that we're convenient, but would like to hold the meetings between the 16th and the 27th. And I haven't looked at just look at the calendar, but are those weekdays?
Yes.
16th is a Monday?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, 16th is a Monday, so it's 2 weeks, it's Monday the 16th through Friday the 27th. He's asking that the meetings be during business hours. He think that that's easiest, and the business hours interest different for the different departments, but they're roughly the same. They're roughly between 8 and 4. My thought is that there should be 2, not limited to 2, but that ideally we have 2 people at each meeting.
No less than.
Yeah, right, thank you.
And how many meetings are there?
I don't know,
Oh.
unfortunately, but my suggestion is that what we do is we basically identify now, let's say 8 90-minute slots.
Mhm.
Or maybe 10 90-minute slots, and ask him to fill those. If that's, and then he may decide to combine if we, anyway, and ask him to fill those.
I think that's exactly how
Okay.
I think that's properly handled.
All right, so maybe what we should just do is give him 1 slot each of the 10 days.
Yeah,
Or is
no,
that-
starting with
Well, start- yeah.
Tom's availability for the Monday and
Right,
Tuesday
for the
before you
second-
go away.
I apologize. I
Oh.
do.
It's not a movable date.
All right, so Tom, why don't you pick, let's just see how many people are available. Pick 2 times, a time on the 16th and the 17th that's convenient.
Because I'm the squeaky wheel, I'll take any time
On those 2 days, all right.
How does that sound?
So, my time is sort of between 10 and 4 on most days.
And on those 2, mine is between 2:30 and 4.
All right, so 2:30 to 4. Is there any, so 2:30 to 4 on the 16th and the 17th are days that the 2 of you can make it. Is there, I think that's sufficient to put that on the schedule, right? We've got 2 people who can come for
Sure.
2 days. So 16th, 2:30 to 4. 17th, 2:30 to 4. All right, let's just keep going. All right, I'll just go around. So Ellen, why don't you propose times for the 18th and 19th? Or pick 2 days from the 18th to the 27th. Pick 2 days and propose times on each of those days. And let's see if there's someone else who can join you. Oh, you're muted.
Alan, you're muted.
You're muted, Ellen.
I'm gonna run and get my calendar.
Okay, that's fine.
So I can do the 18th. In the morning, I have physical therapy in the afternoon, and I know I'm going to suffer afterwards, so I'm not going to be in a position to concentrate.
But Tom, wait, hold on 1 second, Kareem. You were waving your hand to, you wanted to interrupt the.
No, I just wanted to make sure Alan got off mute.
Oh, okay, got it. All right. So Kareem, so 18th in the morning,
Yeah.
anytime in the morning, basically, 8 to noon?
Yeah,
Okay, and is anyone
I
else?
can, Brian. The 18th through the 20th, I can do any time.
Okay, so the 2 of you and Kareem can do the 18th. Why don't I should we give him 8 to noon as a time? Is that too broad a?
If it's 10 to noon, I could possibly be there as well.
All right, so why don't we say 10 to noon? Well, actually, let's say 8 to noon, because we've got 3 people who could do it. We'll give him the broadest, we'll say 8 to noon.
Mhm.
And the people.
And then we'll refine.
Right, so Kareem, Ellen, and Jill.
On the 19th and 20th, I'm good anytime.
Okay, so the 19th and 20th, Tom, anytime. Any other people want to follow, on the 19th and 20th, I have big blocks of time free too, so we can come down. Anyone else on the 19th? Or the 20th? Okay, so Tom, you and I can do the 19th and the 20th, and I'm gonna say, Tom, between 10 and 3 on those 2 days, is that okay?
Yep.
Okay, so we'll say 10 to 3, Tom and John, okay? All right, the next week,
so the next week I'm available Monday, the 23rd, at pretty much any time, 10 to 3, if you want to put it that way.
okay? Anyone
And
else?
then, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I'm available
All
the
right,
23rd.
10 to 3?
Yeah, that's fine.
And I'd be available 12:30 to 3, so I could be.
All right, so let's say 12:30 to 3 then.
Okay.
And then we've got 3 people. Kareem, Ellen, and Jill. 12:30 to 3. Okay, the 24th. I can do the 24th from 9 to 2. Anyone else on the 24th? No one else
Uh,
can do the 24th?
I can do the 24th, 9 to 12, then I have physical therapy.
Okay, so 9 to 12, Kareem and John. Okay, then there's 25, 6, and 7, all right. Anyone
The,
just
tw- the
shout out?
25th, I'm pretty flexible.
And I can do till 1 o'clock,
9 to 1,
or 10 to 1, sorry.
10 to 1,
You'll need counseling after that.
10,
this
all
is
right, I'll
good.
just say, I'll say 10 to 1, that would be Kareem
I'm
and
the
Jill.
continuity person.
All right, 26 and 27. I can do 26 anytime from 9 to 3. 26th, Thursday.
I can do 10 till 12.
All right, so we'll say 10 to 12. Jill and John. And what about the 27th? Anybody? That one is not good for me.
I can actually do any time that day.
Jill, anytime. Tom, any other days? Can you do the 27th? Anytime or in the morning? Well, no, sorry, anytime you said?
Anytime.
No, I have a medical thing in New York on the 25th, and I'll be indisposed for a week after that.
Okay, hope you're feeling better then. All right. So I can do 10 to 12 on the 27th. I can do that too.
I can do the 28th, John, if there's still.
That's a Saturday. All right.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's okay. But you could do the 28th if
Okay.
there's, that's sort of a
What
back.
time did you put in for 27th?
10 to 12. All right. So I'll go over this.
Okay.
So the 16th from
Um,
2:30.
I might be able to do those days, but it's actually my sister has a medical thing and I'm not sure when it's scheduled.
Okay,
So
which
I can't
are the
really
days?
commit. I can't commit, but
Okay, well, I'll put you down as a question mark because we
it's
have
a question mark.
for
Yeah.
which days?
I'd say the 25th, 26th, and 27th. Question mark.
Okay. All right, good. Okay, so, okay, and I forgot to write down who were the people on the 16th from 2:30 to 4. Who said
That's
that?
Jill and myself.
Jill and,
I don't mean to speak for you, but it's.
That's right,
correct?
yeah.
and then the 17th, 2:30 to
As
4,
well.
same
Same.
thing?
As well.
Okay.
Where's mom?
18th from 8 to noon, Kareem, Ellen, and Jill. So Ellen, that might be a day you do it because Jill has volunteered for a lot of days. The 19th from 10 to 3, Tom and John. And the 20th from 10 to 3, also Tom and John. Tom, not Tom and Tom P. Is that all right? The 23rd from 12:30 to 3, Kareem, Ellen, and Jill. And again, maybe only 2 of you would go, but or all 3 of you, you can work that out. The 24th from 9 to 12, Kareem and John. The 25th from 10 to 1, Kareem and Jill. Ellen question mark, possibly. The 26th from 10 to 12, Jill and John. Ellen possibly with a question mark, and 27th from 10 to 12. Sorry, 26th from 10 to 12 and 27th from 10 to 12. Both of those days, Jill and John and Ellen possibly. Okay, I think that gives, and then nothing on, the 28th is a Saturday. Okay, so Tom P. is available on the 28th as a backup.
Can we talk about the logistics during those meetings? I've cleaned up that spreadsheet, which I can fill up, but obviously I'm going to need the information to fill it up. Is the idea that whoever is present, we take notes and then we consolidate both the notes and dump them on the shared drive? What are we doing to make sure that we capture any action items or changes to
Well,
the numbers?
There's a step even before that, Kareem, which is what questions do we want to ask during the meeting? And then how do we want to record them?
Well, I guess we could even take a step before. You're absolutely right. Like, are we going to get the data ahead of time, et cetera? How is that all going to work? Is it going to be different than last year?
It is going to be a bit, although the actual 90 minutes, let's say, that we meet with the department head will be similar, very similar, but the surrounding it will be different. So let me tell you what Eric is planning on. So on October 10th at 5 p.m., Eric is at 5 PM, shoot. I can't make that. Well, he's planning a joint meeting with the trustees and the select board, a budget kickoff meeting. He's gonna have each of the department heads. This, I think, by the way, is a great idea. I mean, it's such a simple, obvious idea, but given that Woodstock has never done it, it's a great idea. He's gonna have each department head give a brief presentation to the select board and trustees. They're gonna talk about their accomplishments in FY '23, or I think FY '24 is what he means, the outlook for FY '25, and the long-term view of their financial needs. There will not be financial statements presented. He's not gonna be presenting numbers. I mean, I'm sure they'll mention some numbers, but they're not, this is not a first review of the budget. He will have met, so he will be meeting with the department heads prior to the October 16th through 27th, which I think is similar to the past.
So sorry, that meeting at 5 PM on the 10th, I guess hasn't been warned yet. It's open to the public, right? So we're encouraged to attend.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
It's going to be pretty important to attend that.
Yeah, very important, I think. If we can all attend, I think that would be great.
I think we need to attend or listen to the recording.
Yeah.
It's a bit insulting to come to the meetings the next week, not having heard their.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, yeah, so I can attend. And hopefully, as many of you as can attend as possible. On November 1st, he is the department. So after our meetings with them, the department heads there will be a budget that they have worked on already prior to our meetings. And I didn't.
So will we receive any documentation prior to our meetings with the department heads?
And so I haven't worked out the date at which we will get it, but we will get it before the meeting. So I'll take a date with him. He's working, he will have that worked on.
Okay.
Can you use the word electronic so we don't get a paper?
Yeah, no, yeah. I just want to get draft budget, yeah. On November 1st, the department, after our meetings with them, on November 1st, the department heads are going to submit their budgets back to Eric. And he would like to have a finance committee meeting on November 6th. I think that date is probably flexible, but it's about then. Let's just look at it.
That's a Monday.
Oh, okay. So we already have a meeting on the 6th.
So unless the surgeon says something different, I'm going to be out of town on the 6th.
Are you?
I might be able to dial in. I don't know.
Will you be in on and in a condition to meet on the 7th or 8th?
I will still be out of town till the 16th.
From the 6th to the 16th of November?
No, from the 31st to the 16th, unless my surgeon says I'm not allowed. But I mean, it shouldn't hinge around me. So I might be able to dial into the finance committee. I have it on my calendar.
Okay, well, I think I'm going to suggest to Eric that we start the meeting at 1 at our normal time, since we've already blocked that out.
I think that is wise.
And then we'll see how long he 1 PM. I'll review that with Eric. I think there are two things that we should, so that's, I think, the process. I think there are two things that we should discuss. Last year, we had a set of basic questions. I think it's a good idea to have those again. I would actually not change them. I don't remember what they were, but they were basically, in effect, what would you, if you were forced to cut your budget by X, or Y, what are the things that you would cut and why, basically?
And what type of number do you give them? Do you give them a percentage, or do you give them a hard dollar amount?
I think we said 5% last year.
No matter what we give them, they won't answer the question the way we intend, but I don't remember which one we gave.
Agreed, and nor should they, by the way.
Yeah, probably right, yeah.
Yeah, and we should, I think the follow-up question was, what would be the impact to services should that, happen?
Right. Well, can one person, can someone volunteer to kind of go back to last year, look at it and suggest, we can just do this via email, just to suggest any edits? Not that there need to be any edits. I mean, last year, I think it worked as well as it could work. It prompted some, for people who were open to the idea, it prompted that it made sure we had the discussion.
And since the heads are the same as last year, it shows continuity in what we're asking.
Yeah,
Which they'll probably be receptive to.
one head is different,
different.
but yeah,
2 heads of
but the listers,
police and public works,
oh, police, right, yeah,
just the two biggest.
right.
And Eric, because he has a table of things under his budget control as well. 3 people.
Right, right. Anyone want to go back and look at those? Don't all raise your hand at once. All right, I'm gonna, I'll figure out.
If I may suggest, I'm sure you can find them pretty quickly, John. It might not be a bad idea to show it to somebody actually who was not part of the meetings. I'm thinking about Tom Phillip, because we'll get another opinion, another layer of thought
If
around
you could,
this.
if you could furnish me, I don't even know how to look at,
Right.
find them.
Oh, you
that's-
need
I was
to enter
looking
into a
at-
Google spreadsheet.
That's a brilliant-
I was
Google.
looking at the shared drive and they're the other day and they're on there.
Yeah, all right,
The ones from last year.
So
I will send them to you.
I have never seen
Okay,
shared
then.
drive, so I am excited to see.
Okay, so send the questions to Tom.
We should also send him the link to the shared drive and give him access to the docs.
Okay, I'll do that.
Yep.
And then if you have any suggestions, that's fine. Otherwise, the rest of us are implicitly saying we're fine with the questions from last year.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
inevitably, I think he makes a good point.
Yeah.
If I've never seen it.
Then you can add
yeah.
anything you want to add is great. Okay. The second thing that I discussed with Eric, us doing this year, is I'm hesitating because it's going to take some work and I'll have to do it. I think is reminding him or explaining to him, I think he kind of has figured it out, that the budget discussions take place as, at the 1,300 line item discussion. That's just for the town. So I think it's almost double that for the town and the village and triple that for the sewer. So, maybe the sewer's not quite so big. And I said that we have largely, not 100% completely, but largely mapped the accounts into kind of
Categories.
digestible categories. And that one thing that the finance committee could do is and that what we did do last year was to kind of present things in a kind of a summary fashion. That the select board and trustees still wanted to go through the 1,300 line items, but that it was useful at some parts of the discussion to have the summary. I think really, to be honest, and I'm sorry to say it this way, but it's just a question of whether I have enough bandwidth to do it. It's not that, the only thing I have that you all don't have is the history and the knowledge of the intricacies of the spreadsheet, which is complicated. Anyone could, it doesn't take any skill to do this, but I don't think I can delegate it or share it, other than the mapping, which Ellen and Tom did a huge amount of work on, which is great, and I've input that into the system. So it's pushing the buttons and so forth, and that would give us some history as well.
That would be good.
So it would be fantastic if we could get that.
Can we pay an assistant for you?
But it's just the problem. Yeah. So this is going to relate to the next subject about administrative support. Anyway, I think our strategy should be not to mention this again to Eric until we have it, if we have it. If we have it, we can display it and it will be fine. And if we don't, and I'll share it with all of you if I can get it done by, October, yeah, it's not going to be done by October. Well, the problem is the EDC survey is happening right now, and that takes a lot of the time that I have to work with spreadsheets and so forth. Anyway, I'm just sort of mentioning this. If anyone is interested in taking this over, I would be happy to share my NIMRIC experience with you.
If I could take a step back right now. I
Yeah,
would.
ups and downs. I think that I think this is just an upside if we can get it done. If not, I think we can continue
Yeah.
the way we did last year, where we didn't have this tool anyway. So
What may be more important is to ask for what columns will be given to us with the budget.
Yeah. Yes.
last year, year before, actuals, not.
Right, I guess I've assumed in this discussion that Eric is smarter than anyone else we've dealt with.
I think that's a good
More
assumption.
familiar with this, so
I
that
hope
he's gonna,
so.
he's gonna do something that makes sense to him, which will presumably then make sense to us. But I will ask him,
Yeah, just, it would be nice to see a few years' history
yeah.
at that level. And
So
I'm
are we
s-
gonna be using the same report that we had last year?
I don't know, the person
You
who,
don't know.
I don't know, I mean, Eric presumably will look at that and say the same thing any of us did, which is, this is insane. But he then may
Yeah.
say, well, there's nothing else we can do this year until we
Yeah,
have a new.
It
I mean, this
wasn't
is-
just that it was insane, that it kept changing.
Oh, well,
And we didn't have the changes in front of us, so
Yeah.
you know,
I'll make sure.
that was hard to keep track of.
Okay, so basically, wrap it up. We want to get two things. We definitely want to get and can get is rapid updates whenever it changes. So a process
Okay.
for every time it changes for making sure we have access to the most current draft.
Right.
yeah, which, well, she changed it frequently.
I don't mean every minute, but I mean, maybe we just get a link to the spreadsheet or something like
Yeah,
that.
just a link.
Or we get every 2 days, we get a copy of it or whatever.
And we stick it on the drive so that
Right, so
it's there if we need to look at it.
Right.
Otherwise we don't. Did you ask about, like, who's the assumptions going in for salary increases, things like that? Is Eric handling all of that?
I assume he is.
Healthcare
I didn't even ask him. Assumptions. And which columns? I'll have that discussion with him later. Or does anyone else want to do that? This is pretty, I mean, I have to talk to him anyway, so.
So one good thing we did last year, which maybe we can work out how to do, is we put as we looked at each department's budget, we put our questions into a spreadsheet that we all had access to. So the people that were coming to the meeting had a spreadsheet with questions. The people who weren't coming to the meeting could add their questions to that same spreadsheet so that they could be asked even if they weren't there. Is that how you remember it, Kareem and Ellen?
I think we did that more at the end when we,
No, I do remember that actually, Alan, but I thought that spreadsheet was bewildering a little bit.
yeah,
Maybe there's a way that we could break it down in tabs per department. And then, because what we tried to do, we tried to link it to the budget lines. So it got bewildering because it became very long and we had a specific question and some of us had the same question for the same line. So I'm wondering if for this year, we could just, instead of going line by line and adding our question and looking for those questions, maybe just have general questions that we would pose the department head. And if there's a specific line, we could just refer to it.
The specific lines are very important because they've made the budget up by line, and so I doubt that the general questions would be understood.
Okay.
But if you start talking about a general line about why has paper consumption gone up, or budget gone up by 600%, you'll get an answer to that question. Even if your general question is, why have office supplies gone up by 6%?
I guess
you can only get answers to questions that are unimportant.
No, I could have taken healthcare costs as easily as office paper.
Yeah.
You can only get answers to specific.
Right. I agree.
Okay. I mean, the other nice thing about having it in a shared is that even somebody who's not attending the meeting can ask a question and we can make sure that it gets answered, right? If the question is relevant.
So the thing I remember from last year is having questions on one spreadsheet, on one document,
And notes,
and
results.
the budget on another document, and I just went crazy. I would like it all on one document so that we can all track through in the same way with the questions.
Could we put the account number next to the question?
Well, then you're still looking at two things, and my screen's this big, and I'm going,
Oh, I see.
I'm trying to track them both.
I guess the other challenging part is, what if 4 of us have a question on that line? Are we going to be able, did we have a column per person so that we can ask a question for that particular line for that
We
department?
did have a column per person, and that was probably confusing.
Yeah.
Not sure we need that.
Well, yeah, we do, because if several of us have different questions on one line, we should be able to capture those, right?
They
I-
will be captured. Why couldn't we all write in the same box? Why do we
I
need to write
guess-
separate columns?
I guess we could and put our name in parentheses in case we need to clarify what the question means, in case there's a follow-up. That's
I thought of
possible
a
too.
really bad idea to make it one spreadsheet, because the numbers will keep changing, our questions won't. So we shouldn't combine them.
Well, we could merge them in real time. If we have a. Yeah, just the lack of systems here is,
Well, I mean, it's not perfect, but at least it might work if we at least have not all the budgets on the same page, but the department that we're discussing that day on that particular tab, and then a column with questions. And, I know I'm being very detailed, but we
If
should
we-
allow
if
for.
we allow for, if we allow for a single printed piece of paper, we can solve this problem. Since your screen you're looking right now at a piece of paper, your book and your screen.
But then we need, but the person in
sort
the meeting needs to write the answers and share it with the rest of the group. So a shared document is easier. Otherwise
Yeah, I
it's-
remember that they would
Because it's-
submit.
you could write the answers in the budget document.
Yeah. But so Kareem is great at these kind of things. Can we delegate you, Kareem? to sort it out?
Sure. I mean, I just know what I'm gonna be working with. Are we gonna have a tab per department? Because I would prefer that, frankly.
You decide.
Can
So,
we have a tab per department?
okay, so, I guess I'm just gonna wait till I get the information, because I'm not gonna prepare anything without having the information, right?
What information? You mean the line by line budget?
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Why don't you design both the thing that we would put our questions in and the place that we would put our feedback from the meetings?
All right, I'm going to make myself a reminder, but when are we supposed to get the budgets that we can review during the meeting starting on the 16th?
I'm guessing between the 10th and the 16th, not earlier than the 10th. And I'm gonna ask Eric, I just want.
And not the evening of the 15th.
Not the evening.
All right, so I'm putting myself a reminder, say on the 12th, to work on that. And if I don't see anything, I'll reach out maybe to you, John, say, hey, are we getting the info?
Okay.
Okay. And we got to make sure that Tom Phillip gets the link to the shared directory, the restricted and the non-restricted.
Yeah,
but
I
all
have that
this-
on I have that on my list, although I really like the idea of the fact that since Tom is new, maybe he should be doing everything, at least for the first.
For 2 days.
He willingly accepted your suggestion. I'm gonna remember that for the future, Tom. If there's any more work to be allocated, I might,
It's part of the hazing, Tom.
okay.
Thank God I took another day job.
Yeah, right, exactly. Okay, so I think that's, and then Eric has not really set the process yet for the FC meeting, November 6th onwards, and I think that that's fine. I think we can, in that meeting, suggest ways in which we'll stay involved between the 6th and the end of December likely, or first week in January. So,
Okay.
okay. So the other, where's the agenda? The other agenda items, other than the thing, sharing of analyses, healthcare costs and long-term model. I think we discussed the healthcare costs. We were just going to bring that in to the discussion, I think, with the department. Well, we were going to bring it into the budget meeting, but I don't think it makes sense to bring them into all of them because it's a cross-cutting thing. So it's probably when we sit down with Eric.
I think it's a direct to Eric.
Yeah.
And I think that's the deliverable. I do not think we should go to individual departments and
Right.
Agree.
converse.
Agreed. So I think
Okay, but who's I guess who's owning ensuring that that's happening? Because I mean, you don't want to have a to-do that's a general to-do and just sits out there, you know.
Yeah, no, I understand.
No. How about the November 6th budget meeting we have
Yeah.
with the finance board and Eric
I think
on
that's,
the schedule?
I think that might be too late. Well, maybe not.
Well,
No, actually, might be a good time to do it.
a good time to present it would be the time after you've rolled everybody's initial budget up and come
Right.
up with a percentage increase and
Right.
then said, well, one of the areas we could cut is blah, blah. If they come in with budgets lower, then it has no legs.
Right, right.
You mean for healthcare costs?
Yeah,
Well, I thought those were set by, I think Tom and Zoe did that. So that's, the personnel costs and the healthcare costs, that's something that's populated into the budget. The
Essentially.
budget managers don't really control it.
Right, which is why Tom is saying, right, so we all agree that we should be doing it at the town village level, not the department level.
Precisely.
But the
Exactly.
question- I
I
don't
mean,
know.
what's, I guess after all the meetings we're gonna have, right, there's going to be a refining of the budget that will be discussed with us on November 6th.
Right.
And are we saying it's too late because it should have already been incorporated in that whole refining?
I agree that actually, I think November 6th is, first, it's the natural time to do it. I mean, I think we should send it to him with a memo
Mm.
and say that we'll discuss it on November 6th.
Yeah, let's not blindside them.
Yeah, right.
He already got a copy of it, so, of the presentation, not of how we're gonna approach it.
So I think we have to give him an agenda, a list of topics that we would like to at least touch on.
Yeah.
On the 6th.
Right, okay. So, yeah, I think that would be the time, and then also, I think, to talk about the long-term model.
Yeah, that was my other question. What are we gonna do with this model? Like, when are we gonna start to introduce it?
Well, yeah, I think the model, we can divide up and delegate. There's no, it's just it's not a simple model, but it's not a, but there's no, you don't need a long history with NIM. It doesn't take that long to explain it. It's a normal financial model, so we can't really, I don't think it's quite at the level of being ready to share. But
Have you showed it at least to the chairs of the trustees and the select board?
no, I'm not, the only time I've shown it was when you all saw it.
I'd like to bring something up about the chairs of the select board should not have any information that all the select board and all the trustees have. The meeting is really about setting the agendas and
Which meeting? You're talking about the
chairs of
October
the
10th.
select, no, the chairs of the select board and the trustees. So it's not a good thing to suggest presenting them information and not presenting it to everyone.
oh, okay.
Yeah, I thought it was more just to get their feedback before presenting it to the larger group, that's all.
I think,
that's how the meeting is used, but it's actually not correct.
which meeting are you talking about?
A meeting that happens every week between the town manager and the chairs of the
Oh, I didn't know
trustees
that.
and the select board, which is being abused.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So I wouldn't want to contribute.
All right. So let's just, so the healthcare, we agree. Do we, if he's already seen it, then then we're talking about giving him a list of, we want to put up, we want to suggest an agenda, right?
We'd
It-
like
it-
agenda to include, is
Right.
the way I
Yeah.
would phrase it.
It wouldn't hurt to just resend him the latest copy that included the benchmarking sort of approach to it, John.
Yeah, why don't
Which,
Yeah. Would you just, if you sent him the last one, which I think you did, why don't you do
I'm-
that? And then when I talk to him, I'll say that the agenda should include that. And also, I think the long-term model. I don't think he's seen, was he in that? I don't think he was in that meeting where we talked about the long-term model.
Yes, I was there.
The, and we can also put that on the agenda, just in terms of like, where do you want us to go with this? Those things might get pushed to the bottom of the, not the healthcare thing, but the long-term model might get pushed to the bottom of the agenda and not covered at that meeting if we're, because our purpose there is how big is the budget and what's the increase, and, that's the main.
Introducing something new to that discussion.
Yeah.
Maybe,
Yeah,
Bad idea.
It may not, it's not a good idea. I think there's a separate process for
There's
that.
a scramble process between November and the
Yeah,
beginning of
right.
January.
So once the budget is
let's
posted.
table that.
Yeah, right, I agree, until mid-January, when the budget is out of everyone's hands and it can't be changed, because it's been posted to the, whatever, being sent to the printer. I think that's actually what determines the schedule. Idiotic, but
Well, you have to warn it. No,
I know the
it's the
warn-
warning that is determines it.
determines this. The warning includes the numbers in the budget.
Yes.
Yeah, but if you remember, I thought the printing schedule, it took longer to print it than it did to warn it.
Oh, really?
I think so. I just remember that. It's like, well, yeah. I mean, the thing is, anyway. I remember that there's a town in Vermont whose annual report is half a page. It's not even a full page. It's a half a page, because I was told that legally we have to publish,
Right.
90 pages of whatever.
And then you found in that half page.
Yeah, so anyway, okay. All right, administrative support. I've asked the select board and the trustees to consider up to $1,000 to pay for someone to take minutes and post the agendas. Eric came back, said that they discussed it and that they don't have the bandwidth, the staff doesn't have the bandwidth to take the minutes, which was not my request. But that they could post the agendas for us. But that he has a short-term solution that he'd like to discuss. He has a short-term idea for you. Eric has a an idea to deal with the problem and the issue in the short term. The issue is that it's a gigantic pain in the ass. Well, sorry, the issue is it's a huge pain in the ass to do the minutes. My personal issue is, or statement is, I'm not doing them.
Right. And our issue is that John's time is limited and we don't want him doing these things.
But it's fine. So I mean, one solution is, which I think on principle I'm opposed to, because we're volunteers, is for one of the rest of you to do the minutes.
Everybody take a giant step backwards, please.
Right. However, so really, would anyone like to be the minute taker? Hearing none, not surprisingly, and I agree with all of you, none of us should have.
Aren't we doing the minutes, the recorded audio?
Technically, the recorded, a text of the recorded audio, which is possible to do, is not, there's actually, I don't know whether it's the law or the interpretation of the law by VLCT, is the minutes are not supposed to be that. It actually says somewhere that a transcript of the meeting is not minutes.
So what is the penalty?
Good question.
The penalties.
What can they do to us?
The Chateau Bow Wow.
They'll shut us down? No. Make us unvolunteer?
No. Listen carefully to what I'm about to say.
Okay.
The penalties for knowingly violating the open meeting law are criminal penalties.
Oh.
It's a misdemeanor.
Yeah, but are we violating the laws
Are we
or are we
violating them if
just
we have the
technically,
recordings?
I'm not, this is the recorded meeting. I'm not going to answer.
Ask for the $1,000 and demand it.
Okay, we have the recordings and we've asked for someone to transcribe them. So
no, but there's software that transcribes the recording.
I mean,
we have a transcription of the meetings and we can post that, but my advice to you really is how to deal with Eric and the select board on this. So for example, I feel, given that there are criminal penalties and the statute talks about individuals who knowingly violate the law.
Excuse me, we're putting this on somebody else's plate. You do not take this on this plate with this committee.
I agree. However, I'm the chair, and so one thing that I could do, I don't want to overreact. So my response to Eric, I drafted a eloquent and powerful response to Eric, but I then deleted it and said, "Oh, I'd love to hear your short."
I mean,
So
I
my
don't think,
question really is how, I mean, I could resign as chair.
no, but wait,
With this
there's,
introduction, I
we've
can't
asked
imagine
we've asked the town to provide someone to do the minutes.
should we?
Okay, and we have a transcription, or they can listen to the audio and do them. So aren't we covered?
I mean, is the
Except
spirit
it's-
or the letter of the law? The spirit is that we have a transcription of the entire meeting, and these are the minutes.
I don't think we want to defend our legal precedent here.
Right.
I think we want to do is provide the town with the transcript and instruct them to then put it
That's an
into
excellent
a
idea.
favorable minutes. And as soon as
Okay.
it's off our,
That's a great idea.
And then one of us edits them, which we could do.
I'm not even going to suggest that, because
No, no, no.
there's no information. If they've got the transcript and the recording, then they can do that.
and no one's going to read this.
Yeah,
Of course, no, this is the
Uh,
question, and no one's
I
gonna
mean,
read it.
one of us could easily do the minutes, which is say who was there, what time it started, what time it ended, and what decisions were made, and that would be,
What motions were made, if
yeah, we never make motion.
if that's the case, then we could do that. Because, okay, well, maybe we should just do that, just have those be the minutes, and then we post the recording, and if someone, then we were being accused of not having informative enough minutes, that becomes more of a qualitative thing. And then we're not
Not the absence of the minutes.
correct, right? And then we have the recording, so we're clearly devoted to transparency and so forth, which we are. I mean, we're, I think, adhering to the spirit of it. That's
Yeah.
actually a really good idea. So
All we do is an attendee,
yeah, okay.
right?
Agenda, any motions under it.
Yeah, there were no motions were made.
And all this is going to be captured in this transcript because you vocalized it today,
You know,
for
but
example.
No, no, but the
attaching the transcript is the great workaround
Yeah.
for the agenda, right?
Right,
And the minutes.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, but so basically, I like that idea. So basically, the minutes will be attendance, motions,
Date, agenda.
date and time of calling the meeting to order.
Yep.
Meeting to order and, what do you do at the end?
Close.
No,
Adjourn.
There was
adjourn.
there was the agenda also you wanted to attach.
Yeah, right, the motion,
And then you attach it to the transcript and it's done.
right, okay. Well, I'll refer to the video, actually. I don't want to do the transcript
I like refer to the video.
for details. Yeah, okay. Okay, good. That's a really good solution. I
Because
like that.
otherwise it's a very expensive solution to have somebody sit here or listen to an hour of tape.
You know, I wonder if we should do this for the EDC too. 'cause
I
we're
mean,
paying-
Zoom actually has software that transcribes an entire
No,
meeting.
the issue is that, sorry, the statute says that a
We're
transcript,
just trying to be compliant.
a transcript is not minutes. The transcript cannot serve as minutes, is what the statute says, or the
Yes.
interpretation of it. I'm not sure. I don't remember if it's,
I'll take a look at your EDC minutes.
well, the EDC minutes are good minutes. They are an alternative to watching the thing.
And that's what you get for how much a year?
I'd say it's $1,000 a year, maybe $800 a year, 103, yeah, $1,000 a year.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. That's great advice. All right, other items on the agenda, the quick update on the Aqueduct Company project. Tom, I don't want to put you on the spot, so feel free to say no, but I can't, it's mostly a memory question. I thought when we discussed the Aqueduct project last time, that you had said you would be interested in being kind of part of the client team, just to hear the presentations and so forth. Is that, you volunteered for something, was that it?
Yeah, yes,
Okay, great. So so you get one last chance to turn it down, but we have now a team from Harvard Business School. They have basically started. They have between now and December, early December, first week in December. Eric is the point person and the client, but Charlie Kimball and Eric are putting together a group which will include one trustee, one member of the select board. I'd like to, and they agree to have one member of the finance committee. And I said you were because of your background in municipal finance, obviously, you're a perfect person to do it. So if you'd like to do it, there'll probably be, I'm guessing, 3 meetings between now and the end, and then December, and then a public presentation in December. And they're gonna build a financial model. They're gonna look at the different ways of financing it. They might look at some of the governance questions that were raised and so forth. So it's just really, my action would be to pass your name on to Charlie Kimball, who knows, I told him that I thought you volunteered, but I needed to confirm. And he's asking
no,
me.
it's fine. I think it's a very interesting project.
Great, okay. So I think that's really good. And then I think what's important is keep in mind, obviously, both the project, but also keep in your mind the role of the finance committee post-project and what could we do, or would we be needed to do after that? I think this issue is going to stay in the forefront. This is going to have to be resolved fairly quickly. I just heard this morning that the final repair that's needed, the pipe, the little small pipe that's going over the bridge,
Mm.
it's going to cost $150,000 to fix, and that the Aqueduct Company doesn't have the money to do it.
And is
Nor-
that the
nor do
one
they
they
have a
want
line
to?
of credit
Right.
available to them.
Correct. And
Is that
and
that the
it
one they
gets
want to? Is that the one they want to attach under the bridge instead of going under the river?
I think so, yeah.
That's not
Okay,
her.
all right.
It's the one where you can see the pipe. It's just on the
Yeah,
side.
yeah. Okay.
And apparently it gets too cold to do that work. At a certain point in time, which presumably is weeks or a
So,
month
yeah.
away from now. So, well, actually, let me ask if there's an opinion that you all have, and Tom and, well, this is really not a question of municipal finance, it's really more a question of risk. Gyra is apparently in discussions with private equity folks for debt or equity financing. As he said he was,
Why?
to sell the company. This is
Okay,
To sell the.
there's a real buyer.
Sorry?
Is there a real buyer?
I don't know, but he's continuing those discussions. And apparently was looking to the state for funding, hasn't found it. He may or may not know where to look precisely, and so Charlie Kimball will get involved with helping him.
Can I ask, why is Charlie involved?
He was part of a project team that was initially brought together, and he's, as an ex-state legislator, he has connections left, right, and center.
No, it's
Yeah.
fair. I was just inquiring.
Yeah, a long-term resident, I think he's in,
Is there urgency to get this fixed because the pipe, the way it is, the water might freeze in it over the winter?
Yeah.
Yes,
I don't think
That's
that's
what you
the,
said,
No,
no.
But this is the fix was, as I read it, temporary, right? And you have durability issues with the current fix. It's not open-ended. This cannot go on indefinitely above
Well,
ground.
also, there are restrictions. The fix is not at the same capacity. The temporary fix is a smaller capacity than what we had
Yeah.
before, what we will have in the future.
and we also have snow coming.
Right, and whether that's gonna freeze in there.
I don't know any.
Well, you
all
will
I know-
be able to clear the sidewalk, the machine.
Well, okay, yeah. What I know for sure is that the capacity is lower, and there are restrictions, like we're not allowed to power wash and, pressure hype, whatever. But I think that I'm speaking completely out of school here, only what I know briefly from a conversation with Stuart Matthews this morning, who had just spoken to Gyra. But if there does turn out to be, I guess I want to have a process question. If there does turn out to be a need to find $150,000, or the town won't have the water capacity over the winter, or the risk of it, that seems like the kind of issue that the finance committee ought to be involved in. This is
Yes.
a process question.
Yeah.
So the only structure that I can think of, which would be, or the most amenable structure that I can think of, would be for the town to loan the company the money at a reasonable return. My understanding from talking to Stuart is that the problem is not that they don't have the ability to pay back the money, it's that they don't have any lines of credit, basically.
Yeah,
That's
that
how
would be a
Stuart
great,
described it to me.
Yeah.
that would be a great solution then. The
So that-
town has cash.
Right, so the town has cash, and taking $150,000, if that's the amount, it's not gonna bankrupt the town, and earning a 10% return which is, in this environment, what you would want, I would think, is probably not a bad
Right.
thing.
And if the town doesn't know that it has 150,000, the endowment fund has that much money.
And
Right,
Oh, that's
and,
interesting. So the
and I,
endowment fund could actually, excuse me for interrupting,
Invest.
but so they could sell bonds,
Yes,
issue this
yes,
in lieu of bonds with no volatility in a current coup.
yeah.
I like that idea a lot.
and I believe that, not to reopen the whole debate about who should cover this, I think that falls within what the users of town water would cover because it's regular maintenance and fixing issues, okay?
This
So-
isn't the town paying for anything.
No, the town will loan.
Just a good
and-
loan
and-
opportunity.
Right, and us, the users, I'm saying us, because most of us might be connected to water here, would be paying for this in our user fees because it's part of regular maintenance and repair.
No one's discussing that.
Right.
All we're saying is, if they have cash flow to pay for the,
Right.
Servicing.
and this is a timing issue, why not
right.
do an exchange of assets
Right.
as it's known.
Tom,
Right.
you, any thoughts?
Well, I think it's easier said than done to just borrow money unless you have the right authorizations and the right bylaws and
Oh,
the
the
right
aqueduct company.
ability to give disclosure to a lender. I don't know the answers to any of those questions. The thing that concerns me is that it seems that we have never put the pipe under the bridge, as I understand it. And do we have the technical engineering to do that? Is there more risk that the pipe would freeze as it's exposed?
It's actually, it's different types of pipes, Tom. Other towns have that, and the pipes actually go under bridges. You just have to make sure you use the right type of equipment. You're right.
Well, the other key point is you need to do this relatively quickly because
Yep.
it's going to be too cold in just a few weeks.
Yeah.
I think the idea of the town lending the money is a good one because the town has presumably more flexibility. And
I mean, if they can't get the job done in a few weeks, the next natural question is what's going to happen to the current pipes? They're going to freeze in there.
Well, I don't know the answer to that. I wouldn't assume that it will or won't freeze. I don't know.
I would just
Ah.
assume some urgency.
Right. Yeah. Well, I think from a process point of view, I don't think this discussion is sufficient to have a motion, which would therefore make the minutes more complicated. I'm now going to be anti-motion for
So
the rest
I
of my life.
I do have a question regarding the Harvard work, and there's a reason why I sort of hinted to that issue, Tom Phillip. Is the Harvard work, besides doing the analysis of what are all the options open, to solving that issue long term with the water company, is it also going to discuss who should be paying for the purchase of that? Is it
No,
just the current
No,
users,
It's
etc.?
a fundamental question.
it is, and it's not,
Yeah.
it's not a question. It's a question that they will explicitly not discuss.
So
Okay.
big question then, when is the finance committee going to take any part in discussions about who pays for the 18 million sewer dollar wastewater treatment plant coming up and the purchasing the water company?
When we have the long-term model with which to have that discussion. Without it, you can't.
And when's it coming in,
When's what's coming in?
the report?
The Harvard HBS report?
Yes.
Oh, end of December.
So it gives you
Middle of
2 weeks to get anything on the March vote.
But there's no way that that this town could make a reasonable decision on any of those issues by March.
So we will have to make a decision on the sewer in that thing. So what work are we doing as a finance committee?
Why do we have to?
I thought it was.
Because there is going to be a very brutal partisan discussion about who pays for what.
No, I understand. Why do we have to decide why do we have to take on the expenditure, whoever pays for it, by March? Why can't we do it in June?
Because it needs to be on the vote.
We can have a vote in June.
I believe that the work needs to be carried out. I don't know. I think it would be good to ask.
I believe we had 5 years from the 21st, so
Of
2021, we had a 5-year window. We had to show process, right, of that sequence, right? So that it doesn't need to be complete by the
So it could go on the
2026.
it could go on the vote in March 2025, and that would be
Precisely. Is that what you recall from our sewer committee? Which was incredibly involved.
I do not remember how much time the EPA has given us, but I do remember that it wasn't the thing that needed to get resolved immediately. I think it was a matter of years. I don't remember 5, maybe 2 or 3.
I remember.
I
that's
specifically remember 5, but
Okay.
I don't know the start date. I can't confirm it was 21.
feeling
all right.
that-
But we don't have a number actually, because the numbers keep changing on the cost of the new plant, right? So I think we first need to.
What's the latest you have?
I don't have one. That's the thing. It's
Okay, I have 18 mil. I've read a proposal that says 18 million.
how
So we
recent
saw a
is that?
proposal. A year ago, we saw a proposal that so it was 28.6 million. because they changed the particle count. They've reduced the particle count twice. Brattleboro is still in the Chateau Bow Wow. They're gonna have to bring the particle count down another third, which could take our basic budget cost here. It's the only thing that I've actually done any work on here, okay, and I'm kind of adamant on it. I believe when this is all said and done, this is an $8 million fix.
So we want to delay it.
The longer we delay,
Okay.
the more, because Bennington and Brattleboro are in
So-
front of us, it will bankrupt both of those places.
Okay.
Okay, so I mean, there's the
I
number,
withdraw
right?
all
But,
questions.
Sorry.
but
Jill, I'm
I
sorry.
I do believe that there's going to be a coming to Jesus on this, and I'm using this as an idiom, an expression, not in the biblical sense, right? I don't want to insult anybody, but there's going to be coming to Jesus conversation with the aqueduct, because the aqueduct at some point there's going to be discussion around,
We'll
is it
set
going to
the
be
precedent
purchased?
for the other.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry.
Right,
let me-
and that philosophical conversation will be applied, that same reasoning about who pays for it would be applied for the plant.
Yes, sorry, let me make my response, let me make my comment about what the HBS team will work on. Let me revise it to be more precise. They have been instructed to build a model which allows for us to look at the financial implications of different people paying for it.
Oh.
And they have been
Oh, they have.
instructed to do that, and they have also been instructed not to study the issue, since it's an enormous waste of their time.
Right, but looking at the options, great.
So not even looking at the options, allowing us to look at the, the build
So
a model which has
they-
inputs.
Gotcha.
Right, if this many people,
If there's
Well,
many people,
Hey,
if you guys decide that this is
By
what
the
the
way-
payment is, this is what the fees are gonna be.
And if are we
Sorry.
able to modify one of the variables
Yeah, it's
in
on
their
a
model? Okay, great.
It's gonna be,
So we own the
they're gonna
model.
build a model
Okay.
for us.
Perfect.
That's what I instructed them to do.
Thank you, John.
All right, well, that's good, actually,
Yeah, right,
because
so I think that's the right answer. And then
Yeah.
after that, then we start using the model.
depending on the principle, we can change the assumptions and we'll see what happens.
Exactly.
Precisely, yes.
good, thank you.
John, can I go back to the water pipe for just a second?
Yeah,
As I'm thinking here, if we have, let's say, until Thanksgiving to actually make the repair, if we have that long, we may have even a shorter window before it freezes. You have to order the pipe presumably now, has to have been ordered,
Mhm.
and that implies some cost commitment. Has that happened, or is
I
it
have no
about to
idea.
happen?
It
Well,
implies that
it's
this conversation
week.
should happen.
So John.
That's why I think we're not in a
If
position.
John- Yeah, if Jairus coming and telling Stewart that he doesn't have the cake for the construction.
Yeah.
Theoretically, he has gone down this road in terms of getting the pipe to the engineer and or the contractor.
I make no assumptions. Which-
Okay, so one of,
But
What-
what I'm hearing from the group is, leaving aside all these other questions, none of which are our responsibility to answer, but some of which might be our responsibility to understand if we are to ever have a motion to actually recommend something. What I hear is that the idea of the town, of the town using its investment portfolio to make an investment is something that's the least objectionable.
And by the way, with proper collateral.
Of course, no, I presume they would have to
That's
put up the whole
perfect.
company as
Yeah.
collateral. So
Right.
one thing that we might want
think
to
we
do,
might-
Jill, is could you investigate whether or not an investment in whatever, Tom, we would call this vehicle, a private bond instrument or something, if that's allowed,
everything is allowed.
everything?
I will give Tom.
Everything.
Our bylaws, but
If you could
basically
give me
there
that,
aren't
all
any.
you have to do is give me the sheet and I actually can
Okay.
go to my old counsel and have them write an opinion letter if you'd like.
What we might want to do is call a meeting of the investment committee.
Well,
Probably
I
don't-
wouldn't do it yet.
Yeah, just give me the material.
Okay,
Let me send it to my people. My people are gonna give you an opinion.
Okay,
whether we're allowed to do it. And then, Tom, actually, then the decision, well, no, I think the finance committee would, from a process point of view, we wouldn't say, well, that's the endowment, they have their own decision making. I think we would want to,
you want the investment advisory committee, they advise the select board and the trustees.
well, actually, then that's that really, I don't think the finance committee should be involved in making, in adding our point of view to investment. I mean, if they want to invest in in this
Tell you what,
risk class.
Hey, my eyes can look at this and I'll know in 30 seconds if we're gonna have the flexibility
Okay,
inside.
no, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about whether or not to make, let's assume that the investment is doable. The question then becomes, does the finance committee get involved in the kind of questions that Tom was asking? Basically, we're assessing the viability of the investment. And if there's another committee that is charged
Is there an
with,
investment committee?
if there's another committee that's.
Yeah,
charged-
Advice
Excuse
to
me,
cost
we're
is very-
talking to the chair here of the investment committee.
Tom,
I'll
But
send you
if
our,
Thank
we
you.
have to make a decision in the next few weeks, I would propose we think of it as a temporary super senior debt obligation. And we sort it out later. It's too much pressure to try to get this thing done in a couple of weeks.
Well,
And you're gonna have to pay for the pipe presumably sometime.
but I think the question really for the finance committee is this a question that we should care about?
yes, well, I think, I believe that our hat, and this relates to my next two questions. I think we could, if we want to, we could make our role financial issues for the town and the village. And having opinions is a better way to go than allowing things to happen without our say so.
Or without our recommendations.
Right, right. We know we can't have our way all the time, but we should be making it.
But I think, right, so one thing we already, I think, could do, just as a result of this discussion, is to suggest that if an investment in the water company was an acceptable risk, if the town providing funding was an acceptable risk, that a reasonable way to do it would be to have one of the endowment funds consider it against its normal investment criteria.
Okay,
There's only one endowment fund,
Right.
and I don't believe there are any criteria that stop us because we actually have the power and the
I
authority.
understand that don't stop you, but you decide every month or every year to.
Yeah,
to
but
ship.
we could take 150,000 and give it.
My point is.
Tom,
Yeah,
so my question is, if we have to do this in a hurry and we think we're gonna make this super senior, the current lenders where he has, as I've understood, $600,000 or $700,000 out are no way gonna give us the
Right.
ability to go super senior. This is gonna be junior to every other instrument.
Of course, absolutely.
well, then the question has to be, if we're getting involved, do we recommend that as a reasonable risk? Is that appropriate for the town to take
No,
a?
the endowment fund can take high risk because if we lose it, that's okay.
No, well, hold on. That's probably not a great articulation of the town's
Yeah, let's not
desired
put that
risk
in the minutes.
strategy.
Let's roll back the tape on that one, yeah.
But
I mean,
No,
what's
I
the
think-
biggest risk? The biggest risk not to have water, or is the biggest risk to sort of take a risk with
No,
150K?
we're talking about two different questions here,
Right.
all right? The financial viability of the instrument that we are taking in exchange of the $150,000, right?
Right,
Is if that vehicle, it's on the recommendation of the finance committee and or the investment committee, that there is risk, it's a risk-oriented return. I believe it's a 10% piece of paper in today's market.
Right.
Right? I believe it's a 10% piece of paper. And if he's talking to private equity companies, they're putting a 12 or 13 right
absolutely.
now.
Oh, yeah, for sure. But I have a process question, which is, since the structure of what we're suggesting is to have an investment, is to have the endowment make an investment, and the endowment has a committee who I think sole responsibility is to make exactly the assessment you just described about the risk of their investments. Why would the finance committee, other than suggesting that the structure of it be thought of as not a loan from the town to a water company that's providing a vital service, but rather an investment of our capital funds into a financial
I
instrument?
think that is the quick catch to get them the money.
Right, but that's the latter, saying is the finance committee's purview to say, we think you should think of this as a financial investment, therefore it's not an operating investment, and therefore the endowment is the one.
It
to-
also removes the conflict.
It does,
that
it
they-
does,
wait a second, of the town at some point in the future,
Ex-
buying the property with a line out.
exactly.
You do not want to have those two.
It solves, it solves a lot of problems. If we were to make the suggestion that that's the vehicle to use, then I think we should say, and
By the way,
we
Jill,
are not
that's
in the
great.
role of
Jill.
deciding.
Great recommendation.
Yeah, then I think we should say, we are not in the position, you should not have the finance committee ever add its recommendations to those of the investment committee.
No.
The investment, right, so therefore,
Should be independent.
they should be,
You know, there's a threshold question here, which, and Tom, you may know the answer. I don't know the finances. What do the debt instruments say? I mean, there are lots of deals you do in the high yield market where you,
And
In
like, Tom, I've heard this third hand, so I have zero credibility here. But as I've understood, they've got, everything is cross collateralized. And the current lenders have no appetite for additional indebtedness at a short period of time, given the myriad of variables that they're trying to sell it, they're talking to private equity guys. The lenders are like, this is not our deal. That's as I understood it.
yeah,
Is that
well,
what you understood, John?
I haven't gone that far. But
Well-
I can't conclude anything else, otherwise he would have just borrowed from them. Right, I mean,
well, if they're not willing to lend, the question then becomes,
why should we?
what do the documents themselves actually say? Can they be subordinated? And that's a technical question. Somebody has to go through all the instruments and
They'll
analyze them.
never subordinate.
But,
No, so we just have to-
but I,
No,
but,
they'll never want to subordinate. The question is
it's
whether
both.
their instruments,
but
allow
that's not, but that's something that an investment committee would do.
I agree.
right?
Say something off the record after.
Yes.
I agree. And we so happen to have the chair here with us that can take it up with the investment committee, right, Jill?
Yes.
By the way, yeah, this is very much premature. I certainly wouldn't call any meetings yet. I think, but the
And
advice,
certainly not a motion.
yeah, right, exactly.
Right.
But I wouldn't call any meetings, but no, but I do think that the scope of it, the scope of advice as to what the right structure is, or the right location for this discussion and so is valuable piece of information. And that I think we could actually have a, well, I don't think we need to have a motion to, I think we just share this idea with whoever is interested and they can take it for what it's worth. So, all right, can we? So if we do need to do so, if this turns out to be something where there is a role for the finance committee, then I will call, and it is urgent, then I'll call another meeting of the finance committee and we'll discuss that with more information than what we have now. But so to answer, Tom, some of your questions and so forth, I think the questions Tom is posing are questions for the entity that makes the investment. And if the town, if the endowment, if there's a committee that deals with that entity, then they should ask those questions that Tom is asking. All right, so update on the approach. Is that okay? Is it all right if we move on then?
Mhm.
Yeah,
All right, let's just we have 13 more minutes. So the role of the finance committee with respect to the town manager and the new finance.
Yes, I just thought it was timely to talk about and maybe talk with the town manager and the new finance manager about what our role is. Because it can be interpreted in many ways. Different towns have different finance committees. People come from different backgrounds, could assume different things, and it might be nice to just put it all on the table and establish what's going on.
Yeah, can I suggest, I think that's an excellent idea personally. Can I just suggest we do that in mid-January? By mid-January, I mean, as soon as the budget is put to bed. Because
Well,
I think between now and then,
I'd like to suggest
sooner than
one
that.
more thing.
Yeah.
So another thing I put on the agenda was, in the last trustees meeting, or the evening meeting, and in the last select board meeting, there were financial discussions relating to the purchase of 2 new police cars and 1 new excavator. Decisions that were changes to the budget that were not run by the finance committee before. Is that something that we would want to happen or not? Interested?
So, yeah,
So that was why, that's the
Yeah.
timing.
Are you asking if there's would you prefer a precedent in a mission statement? I mean, if we have some designation here as a committee, are you alluding to the fact that you'd like to have, there's a certain protocol the town does,
Yes,
so that it requires them to come through us to go to the
Yes.
finals.
because we're
No,
setting.
no, no, I get it.
I
That
do,
was
I
my
do
question.
think that, because I think one of the things that we set ourselves up for was to be advisors to the select board and the trustees.
Right.
And then they get decisions requested of them, which we haven't looked at.
Yeah.
So in the case of the police cars, it was made very clear to them that they're making a change to the budget that isn't in the capital plan, isn't in the budget, and is going to affect their budgets for the next 5 years. And yet we haven't looked at it. And we don't even, I'm not sure that we could do a good job of
No.
looking at it,
Without
but
a long-term financial plan and a capital plan, we couldn't.
No, but
we
Mr.
have got a
President,
capital.
You have to, I say, you have to
And-
set a precedent.
And so I think it would be a good idea to say, yes, that is what we'd like to happen.
So we had one discussion with the select board where they, at their instigation, actually, that they suggested that and agreed that one-off, that non-recurring type items would run through the finance committee first. I think they completely forgot about that discussion. There was never any definition of what that meant. But I think the idea was that not every single thing that involved a dollar would have to go through finance.
Set a limit, right?
So, but it was really the notion of kind of like the aqueduct company, yes. Buying a police car and so forth, not clear. But it depends on what it, is it this police car or that police car? No, that's not a finance committee issue, but
Well, another
what you're
reason-
describing might be.
Yes, I mean, and it's very difficult sitting that side of the table to say no to the person sitting this side of the table when he's got to clear the snow and mend the culverts. It's much easier to have a recommendation from another body and look at that.
I think that, yeah. First of all, I totally agree that we don't have that clarity, that it affects, that it kind of, we sort of stumble from meeting to meeting without it. We definitely, and that we aspire to have it.
I don't even know if all the trustees and the select board members know what our role is.
No, I don't,
Or the town manager or the
Right.
finance person who hasn't started yet with them.
right. I agree with all of that. I may be placing too much faith in the long-term financial model. But I have seen in other organizations that until you have a long-term financial model, no one can make rational decisions about long-term
Right,
financial
and that's why
issues.
we came in the
Right.
first place.
And I've also observed that whoever introduces the long-term financial model and maintains it, meaning us, I don't mean me personally, but the group that does, automatically has a seat at the table and doesn't need to convince anyone of their role. And so the way I would, building on what Kareem said, I don't think any members of the select board or trustees would know what it feels like to have a model in front of them, have someone say, well, if this group pays for it, then here's what happens. Or if you do that police car thing, here's what happens. But when they see it, I'm very confident that they will say, oh, that the next time a question comes up, someone will say, well, what does that do to our tax rates over the next 5 years?
Yeah,
And so I think the way to get at what you're doing is to build the financial model.
which is funny, isn't it? Because
Problem is that the turnover on the select board and the town trustees is so high that we're gonna have to re-justify every time new people come on.
No, I
Well-
don't think so, because the turnover, the turnover happens one person at a time.
but it's where it's going to come from is the town manager.
Yeah, but
More
hold
so.
on, if I could say, I mean, I understand the power of the tool, right? The tool, if and when it works, and we're happy that it's airtight and tested over time, it's going to be very powerful. But the tool doesn't drive the governance. I mean, I think to Jill's point, at some point, independently, we need to clarify what the governance model is for the finance committee. And that's, a bunch of parameters and a bunch of thresholds, probably. I don't know.
Let me challenge any of you, how could, or let me ask the question in a more polite form. How could any of you, any of us, have an opinion on what to do with the sewer? What to do with the $18 million? What, we
We
could,
could recommend that a good analysis and as the with water company takes place, rather than 6 people around the table.
and the analysis that that group would do would be to build the long-term model. Because it's a, so in other words, we don't need to wait. My suggestion is, let's build the long-term model, which, and the reason I say mid-January is that's when we'll get back to it.
But my question now is, given the impact of this, maybe we shouldn't table it till January.
Well, that's fine. Who wants to start building the model? That's fine. No, that's good. I'm happy to do that. That the model, unlike the NIMRIC stuff, the model is divide upable and we could, no, that's fine. My point is that we should, asking the town manager or the select board of the trustees what our role should be, or having I would prefer to not have a discussion of our role until we can say, we think our role, here's the long-term
Okay.
model. This is what we think our role should be using.
I expressed an opinion at the beginning about tabling this till January. Now I want to reverse
Okay,
my point
and
of view
start
entirely.
And work on it.
Keep working on the long-term things, at the very basis of what we're about.
Okay, so maybe what we should do then is have a meeting where we take the model, we divide it up into pieces, and we divide, and again, I'm not talking about the actual modeling, I'm talking about, because I mean, it's easy to build, the model isn't that complicated. The Excel calculations are pretty easy. It's the assumptions that we make and it's the assumptions that we make and what are the inputs that we want to have and what kind of information do we need to gather. So maybe what we should just do is have either at our next meeting, or if you want to do it before then, another meeting where.
Well then, because the next meeting is going to be very busy about the
That's
budget.
fine.
Yeah, the 6th is a big deal.
Yeah.
I'd
With
be,
Eric.
I'd be happy to have another meeting and where I'll show you where we talk about just building the model. We try to divide it up.
Can I tell you, I think if we were all present at a model, what it should include,
Yeah.
I think that dialogue would be very helpful.
Great, let's do that.
Definitely, and
Yeah.
it's the thing that will sustain us through the budget process, where we're just doing something short term again.
Okay, all right. So
And ultimately, John, I'm not sure where you were going with this, but farming out pieces of it probably is dangerous because all of these variables are interconnected. So 1 or 2 people maximum should own the workings of it, and then all of us would provide input.
No. I'm happy to own the workings. The workings
Okay.
aren't that, no, it's what Tom said. And we started to do this at the last meeting. We didn't have enough time really to sort of, you were asking questions, what about X and what about Y?
Yeah.
No, but I think
Yeah.
in a collective,
Okay, so let's set another meeting for 2 weeks. We're starting on the 16th with these meetings,
if you want me there, it's gotta be prior to the 16th.
prior to the 16th. So the 13th is prior to the 16th.
It's not, Fridays are really bad for me.
All right, do you want to try the week? Tom, are you still here on the weekend?
Yeah, I am actually.
How about Saturday, the 14th in the morning, maybe? Or is anyone are we early morning people?
How about the afternoon?
Oh.
It's not because I don't get up at 5 o'clock, but
I'm
I do.
I'm a farmer. I
But-
do get up at 5, so.
Yeah.
2 o'clock
Fine.
on the 14th.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
That would
fine
be
with me.
Tom, M,
I'm good.
Yeah, that sounds okay.
Kareem. Okay, so
Yeah,
2,
yeah. Are you gonna send an invite?
yeah,
Okay.
2 p.m.
2 p.m. on the 14th.
on the 14th.
Okay.
Woodstock. Income. Okay, good. Thank you, Joe, for helping us.
So just to go back, I think it's my opinion that the way our role is viewed by the select board and trustees is very simple. Is we're a bunch of folks that have some level of expertise in finance. They probably view us as an IQ that's maybe a little bit above average, perhaps, and they're happy that we're keeping an eye on things and making sure that the budget process is smooth. And this is what I think they think our role is. That's how these are the type of vibes that I'm getting. But obviously it should be beyond that. It should be really strong governance, et cetera. And I agree that if we have a powerful tool, it'll take us to that next phase.
Yeah, I agree with that. Okay, so Jill, that covers your topics. Okay. Update on, I called it vacant lots, but there's that.
Okay, listen, it'll be very quick. So currently, about 8% of all the properties between Woodstock, South Woodstock, in our vicinity, between known as other and miscellaneous, are currently vacant. They constitute
Wait, 8% of all properties or 8% of those properties?
8% of all properties
So when you say that, they don't have any structures on them?
currently.
Okay,
That does not include subdivisions or properties that are able to be subdivided. We're still waiting for that data, right? Here is the key. In the last 12 years, 5.5 new homes have been built on an annualized basis
Per year.
per year. And it didn't really change in the last 3 years of 2001-2
Really?
because it didn't really change because there's a finite capacity of construction capability.
And does that include accessory dwelling units?
You know, I'm still waiting for additional data.
I see, okay.
But
Very few.
the first issue is you basically have 5.2% new homes per year on a 10-year rolling average.
Which 5.2 homes
Per-
or 5.2%?
No, 5.2 homes, stroke count,
Okay,
right? And the total stroke count right now is 201 vacant units.
wait, what does stroke count mean? Sorry.
In other words, 5.5 units were put into place,
Okay,
removed from vacant to housing structure.
He means absolute.
Pardon me?
So, sorry, go ahead.
So the issue is the handle, right? Is there's about 890 dwellings under 6 acres. There's 450 greater than 6 acres. That's where current structures are. There are approximately 300 vacant lots. Of the 300 vacant lots, some are known as others, some are miscellaneous, and some have been deemed, still in this number, as unperkable, right? Unable to be developed.
right,
That's where I am now on the granular level.
okay.
All right, here is the issue at hand. If we believe we can grow our way out of a revenue problem,
Right.
it is unlikely that we're going to be able, even with any legislation or change that we were to modify, that we're going to get more than 5 or 5.5 new units in the town on an annual basis.
Well, with the current,
what?
Given the current situation.
oh, right,
Right. Now, if we modify, if we incentivize, that could be altered.
Right.
But right now it's 5.5. That revenue stream, the way I look at it, it basically increases the mill handle, the amount of money brought in by the town by about 0.8% per year by the new housing structure. 0.8. Right, less than 1%.
Yeah.
But it's
It's
something.
cumulative.
Precisely.
So I have
By
a
the
couple
way,
of
over the
questions.
10-year period, over the 12-year period, it came in at
10%.
10.17,
Right.
almost a statistical head. And by the way, everybody's building homes. They're not building $200,000 homes.
Right.
They're building,
Multi-million.
yeah.
So Tom, I have one comment and a follow-up question. First comment is, I think you said something that probably we should have discussed a little bit more, or we might need to at some point, is the availability of construction capability, right? There's only that many people building homes around here. And a lot of people can't even have access to contractors because there's not enough people building homes, right?
Hey, look, I'm not talking about the skilled workforce issue. I only wanted to look at the number to understand. I haven't done it, Karim. I did
No,
no
I
work on.
understand, but
Yeah.
I guess my point, if we're gonna project by how much we can potentially increases, we have to think about that. The other point you mentioned is you use the 6 acre as a threshold. Why is that?
This is what the town does. There's residential 1 and residential 2, and the
Uh-huh.
dividing line between the two is sub and above 6 acres.
Okay,
And that line is 6.01, right, and 6 acres. 6 acres and less or below 6.01. I live on a piece of property in excess of 6 acres.
so you're
I'm-
residential too.
It's residential too, precisely.
Okay.
But Tom, just
Go ahead.
a quick thing. You said that there were 890, there's 1,450 dwellings with structures and 300 without structures. But that's like twice 8%. That's 15%.
Well, it depends, right? Because they add in commercial. I didn't,
Oh, okay, fine. So-
which is,
so the-
there's a couple of,
Okay, fine.
yeah.
Anyway,
So,
but the point is there's
can I just
300
tell you? I'm just getting to the root of the
yeah,
number.
okay.
I don't feel comfortable saying that this is my conclusion, and I'm gonna offer up all the data once I collate that data. But on balance, I thought the two most interesting factoids were 5.2 houses per year.
Yeah.
Are getting
Mm.
built, right? And there's no history in the planning department if they're subdivisions or not. So we don't know if they were vacant lands and somebody had 15 acres and they subdivided and built a second or not.
Right.
Because that data is inconsistent.
I mean, so for example, the EDC has created incentives in the last 12 months
Yeah,
for 15 new accessory dwelling units.
And we have 3 so far,
Right. So, but I mean,
3 happening.
right. So they wouldn't have hit their numbers, but I mean, that
Yeah.
would have a big, that's,
yeah, by the way, this is all season for 22. I haven't done
Right,
anything
okay.
for 23.
all right, good. All right, well,
So,
let's
so
keep,
sorry, I have a question. Are our zoning rules, are they municipal or state driven?
Okay, so we have said new zoning plan. And if you really want to get into it, you can read some of this.
The answer to your question is there are state zoning rules,
Yeah.
there are village local zoning rules, and there are
Right.
town zoning rules. State supersedes town and village.
Okay, the reason why I'm asking is if we're gonna incentivize and people are not allowed to subdivide because then that parcel becomes smaller than what the minimum is required, then, they're not gonna be able to build a home on it. So I guess at some point we need to keep that in mind as well.
So, I mean, the whole alteration to Act 250, which I don't even, I can't even comprehend that complexity, try to add to this, the motivations included in the Act 250 alteration.
I think there's no, this is,
This is just, I'm
yeah,
getting to it.
when we,
Yeah,
yeah, this is eventually, we're going to get
we're
to
gonna
the
need
point
this.
where we're gonna have to say, what are all of the levers that Woodstock can pull to grow without destroying the community that we have or that we want to have? Eventually, we're gonna have to do that. The only way to, I think, the only way to convince a majority of people that those changes are necessary for our survival is to have a long-term financial model that shows that without it, we won't survive because
Right.
none of us will be able to afford to live here.
By the way, the ambiance of the town
Right.
will become extinct.
Well, I think the concern, absent understanding the financial pressures that are going to be on this town, people are going to, in general, be opposed to, and the proof of, they're going to be opposed to changing the rules that we've set, because the proof is we've set the rules. And we didn't do it, right? So, I mean, in order to change the rules, there has to be something more important than what those rules are trying to achieve.
Correct.
But the fact remains that if part of our calculus is to increase the number of built homes that's gonna feed into the model, we're gonna have to make sure that the model is receiving input that is, number one, allowable, and number two, feasible, right? And that's
Achievable,
why
exactly.
and that's why the continuing work that Tom is doing. Tom and I had a preliminary meeting. And by the way, Tom, if you need additional help with this, just let me know.
Hey,
Okay.
look, hey, I'm still waiting for
Okay.
what I call enough inputs that I'm comfortable with putting into a model.
Right. Because the last thing I want is that our long-term model, the Excel spreadsheet, right, is fed with information that is not feasible.
Yeah.
Sorry, hold on. I disagree. This is
Okay.
just what a model can and I think should be used for. I think a model would be used. So for example, what I would say
I
is,
knew you were gonna say this, by
yeah,
the way.
what I would say is, here's how many houses, just to take 5.5. If we want our taxes to go up only with inflation, we need 15.5 houses, whatever the number is.
All right. And this
If
is
we
what we
want-
need to do in order to get to the 50.
Well, no, then my point is that,
Measurement by objectives.
yeah, that this is what we need. Now let's talk about how we can do that.
Okay,
Well,
fine.
Is there
Fair
a way?
enough.
Yeah, right.
Fair
And
enough,
my
got it.
point is that I think and by the way, the finance committee, I think our role would stop at what can we do?
Yeah,
But would go up to, hey, folks, we need to do this.
Yeah.
You planning department, town, whatever, figure out how we can get 15 houses a year and what's the best way to get those. Or understand that if we don't, here are the consequences.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think this is going to dovetail in, that's great. Okay. Thank you. Update on the capital plan, just quickly.
there isn't any. It's all waiting on a new finance person joining. And oh, well, I'm sorry, there is more of an update. Sarah Macy is available to help us for limited time, and Eric has reserved her time. And we'll start talking with her when the new finance person joins us imminently.
That's good
As-
news. The imminently is good news.
Sorry, Tom, say it again.
Has the new finance person been identified? Do we have
Yes,
some?
and it's starting imminently. We're not sure whether it's now or next week.
Nice.
Nice.
Okay, I think this is about to be an historic moment. We will have our first motion. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Moved. Tom has made it. Is there a second?
I second.
Tom, M. All in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned, and the minutes shall record. We are adjourned at 2:40 p.m.
Can you stop recording?
Yes, 1 second. 2:40.
I ask a finance committee question. Does anybody know a good place to do apple picking in Woodstock?
You are welcome to come on my property for no fee and pick as many apples as you need. I have 8 varieties right now. This goes with everybody on the finance committee. And
Thank
the
you,
only
Tom.
cautionary line that I would use is because of the warm weather and the wet conditions, the apples are particularly tart and need to stay on the tree another 2 weeks.
That's good timing. So my daughter and a couple pals are coming up at that time.
Hey, look, send me an email, Tom. I'll give you the address. I'll tell you where to park. It's fine. Go at it.
Great, thank you.
All right, folks. Thanks.
All
That
right,
was a good
thanks,
meeting.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.